Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets. Welcome to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Your host, Jeff Lerner, here with you yet again. Glad, as always, to be bringing the truth about success straight to you. And today I'm joined by a luminary figure in digital marketing, social media marketing, and with a deep background in just entrepreneurship, raising capital, really modeling success and promoting success and inspiring success. His name, you may well have heard of him. You may well already be a big fan like me. His name is Evan Carmichael. He's a Toronto-based entrepreneur, international speaker, creator of evancarmichael.com. And he is on a mission to solve, I'll let him say it because I may say it wrong, but solve the world's biggest problem, I believe. And you can expand on that. Evan, welcome to Millionaire Secrets.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Good to be here.
Yes, thank you. So I think I said that right. A mission to solve the world's biggest problem, right?
Yeah, I think the world's biggest problem is people don't believe in themselves enough. I say everybody's got Michael Jordan level talent at something. You're the greatest in the world at something. The best in the world at something. And it's probably not what your parents did, and it's probably not what you went to school for. And you have to first believe that you could be the world's greatest at something, and then with every ounce of your being, go off and chase it down. Whatever else you think is the world's greatest problem, cancer. Well, I think the woman who solves cancer could have already solved it 5 years ago, but she's a manager at an accounting firm and hates her life, right? And so, because she never believed in her ability to go to med school and to chase down that dream. So that's what I'm trying to unlock, and that's my mission for the rest of my life.
Well, I applaud the mission. I embrace the mission. I'm a fan of the mission. And I feel like in a way I have a little bit of a complementary mission, let's call it. I'm here to inspire excellence. I view the world through a very dichotomous lens of excellent and everything else. And excellence is just a lot more interesting to me. And all progress tends to come from people committing to excellence in some way, large or small. And I feel, again, I call that a complementary mission, because if I try to dig into the question of why are people fighting me on this? Why isn't everyone saying, yes, excellence all around in my life, in every aspect, excellence, it's the only way to be. It's all I want to do. It's how I want to show up. Well, they don't believe. They don't believe that it's real for some people. It's real for Elon Musk. It's real for Evan Carmichael. It's real for Steve Jobs, but it can't be real for me, because if everyone was excellent, then who would the media cover? It's like there needs to be this hierarchy of the greats and everyone else. I think in people's minds, we're kind of wired that way. How do you, in your mind, how do you reconcile this? I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. This is a huge challenge for people, but what do you think is actually the key to breaking through with people? Because it's a big fight.
So I have people in a spectrum of personal development, and the first stage are the complainers. And this is the biggest part. The complainers don't think anything is possible. The complainers just focus on all the reasons why they can't win, or that's great for you, Jeff, but and they're just totally closed-minded. Then I've got the dreamers who dream big ideas but never do anything. Then you got the wannabes who I've kind of started and stopped. It might be the highest achieving in their circle. This is where excellence really comes in. They're willing to listen to the excellence message because they're being told that they're great, but they know that they're actually not doing very much. And then you got the achievers and the high achievers. So in that first step of the complainers, the hardest thing I had to do to help start the breakthrough, even just in my own mind, was recognizing that they need to be unburdened first. And it's a thing that we don't want to do, because in the world of excellence, it's like you have full accountability, full responsibility. Everything is your fault. Go make it, change it. But for somebody who right now is buried so deep and hates their life, they're not willing to hear that message. You're coming in way too hot. Like, you want them to climb Mount Everest, and you know they can climb. Like, when you're talking about millionaire secrets, Millionaire isn't even excellent. Like, they could become a millionaire in the next year if they just listen to your advice. That's not even excellence yet. But for so many people, making $1 million is like the holy grail. That's impossible, right? And so that is excellent already, even though for you, that's step one. That's not even like, come on, guys. I want to take you here.
And for you living in Toronto, Millionaire is just like, oh, I can pay my rent. Yay.
Well, and that's, I mean, in a lot of big cities too.
Yeah.
So, version of excellence, it's meeting people with compassion where they're at. And so in the complainer mode, when people are they might have tried something and didn't work, and now they refuse to try anything else. And worse than that, nobody around them is allowed to try either, because they don't want to look bad that they tried and failed. So they need to be unburdened. So the way that I had to wrap my head around this was, it's not your fault. So if I'm working with a complainer, I'm meeting them with compassion where they're at. It's not your fault. And that's hard language to hear, because every answer might be like, of course it's your fault.
That's like the opposite of extreme ownership. So it is.
But here's the thing. So like, how I flip it is, it's not your fault. And ultimately it becomes your responsibility. So it's not your fault where you're at. Another line that's great is, you did the best you could with what you had. And I want to ship people to, okay, but if you want a better life, it's possible. And it may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to get there. And that's how I've made the own compromise in my own mind, because that's a difficult thing for even me to say, because I think everything is my fault. But somebody who's in that stage and they're already hating their life, you telling them that everything is your fault, they just don't want to listen to you. Like, there's Jeff, he's crazy. You're wired differently. I can't do that. And you're not. You're a normal dude who then chose to make an excellent life and then change his standards and build that life for himself, right? It's totally achievable. But if you look like you're superhuman and you're different and I'm not wired like you, then I'm not going to listen to you. And that's the hard part. And so for my message to get out there, I need to go down. I need to be able to talk to the people who are complaining and understand and have compassion for where they are, and slowly shift them to get them to the point where they would even understand a word like excellence, to then hand them off to someone like you to say, okay, let's go.
I appreciate so much what you're saying. And it's so instructive for me as you're saying this. I'm like, I want more insight on this, because I feel myself, without making this a show about me. I mean, just briefly, my journey has been from like absolute rock bottom to, at this point I'm on a nice trajectory. I've achieved certain stuff and I've got a great life, but I have high aspirations and I'm still climbing and all this great stuff. But what you're saying is so true, where like, the better your life gets and the more you achieve, the more you are unlike the people that you're trying to reach. And then, so you're actually in achieving, in getting what you want, you're actually creating a big gap, a relatability gap. And so what you're talking about is if you want to connect with people and you want to have impact with people, you have to constantly be trying to close that gap before you even try to get your message through. And yet at the same time, the more you achieve, like even in my advertising, I'm like, listen, Jeff Bezos, if you want to learn to be successful, well, I guess he can teach you how to have a cush Wall Street job and quit your cush Wall Street job and borrow $4 million from your family and take 10 years and start Amazon and do it. Like, if you want to learn how to do that, great, learn from Jeff Bezos. But what does he have to offer you, really? Listen to me. I was a broke jazz piano player and I started marketing on the internet. And like, so I'm always trying to close that gap too. But at the same time, you look at the real titans of the personal development and business development industry. I think a tiny list of like Tony Robbins, maybe Grant Cardone, maybe like Robert Kiyosaki, you know, it's like this super short list. And I was like, what the hell do any of those people know about average life? And yet that's what I'm aspiring to. So does that mean that if I get there, I'll be unapproachable and unrelatable? It's so weird how you're always, and that's why I'm like, I want to hear more about this, Evan, because you're saying you actually have to change your message in order for it to land. And you have to reconcile almost like a compromise with yourself.
If you want to go down, if you want to go downstream, because if you're preaching excellence, I think once you're in wannabe stage, achiever stage, high achiever stage, at least in my model and how we work it, they're willing to listen to excellence. They're on the bandwagon of personal development. They want to learn from the best. They know they're capable of more. They know it's their responsibility to get there, and they would listen to Jeff Lerner about this. The complainers and the dreamers aren't there yet. Yeah. So they just think if you're some special alien and they can't be like you, even though you're exactly like them. You probably had it worse than them. So this is how my message is believe. I want to solve the world's biggest problem. So it's not enough for me to only work with those three groups. I need to go down. I need to be at the base level. I like dealing with complaints.
Well, they need belief more than anyone.
I agree. So here's what I did. I went to all the people who I've helped in a really meaningful way, people I've mentored or invested into their business, where we had some friction at the beginning, where I was coming in too hot. Even though I felt like this was a baby step, like right. This is what we're freaking out over, right? And I asked them, what was you thought I was crazy. Now you've super valued the relationship. What made the shift for you to want to take me seriously and think that you could do it too? And it all came to some variation of my story. It's like, when you told me this story about you, I saw myself and you didn't seem to be so different. And that if you could get there, maybe you could teach me as well. And so I just collected what were the stories that I told? And so I went to enough people and found what their stories were with an intent to change my homepage. So if you look at my homepage, I went to Tony's homepage and I went to Brendan Burchard's homepage, and these are friends. I mean, not a deep, close friend, but I was at Brendan's house in Puerto Rico earlier this year. I've had Tony on the channel. So, you know, I know these guys. You go to their homepage and what you see is people jumping and screaming and freaking out right on their homepage. For an achiever, it's like, yeah, sign me up for that party. For a complainer, it's like, that's a cult.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to that. What are they doing? He's brainwashed them. What has he done to them? Right? Like people will, I don't know if you've ever been to any of those conferences, but you know.
Oh, I've been to UPW. They literally, they tell you to stand up and jump up and raise the roof. Yeah.
So, but a lot of people, when they go home and they explain what happened, it's like, they think you're nuts.
Right.
Those are the complainers that you got to deal with. And so I naturally want to be in that. I love that. I love Tony. He invited me as a special guest to be in the front row and all that stuff there. But that's not a message. Tony doesn't hit the complainers. Tony hits the people who are, you know, stage 3 and beyond, who want excellence, right? Or high achievement, he would probably say. So I, with intent, moved my message earlier to not show me and not show all the fancy things and not show off my place or who I've been with and all the celebrity pictures and all the news articles and all the awards, and went down to say, talking about how I'm a scared introvert and all of the problems that I had, you know, to get to this point of where I'm at. And just recognizing that the thing that helped me was every step along the way, I tried to model success and try to find a mentor. And that's the only difference. Like I solved this problem by modeling success and finding a mentor. I just found the right plan, and you can do that too. And so it's shifting that message super early. I haven't fully taken it across all of my content, but my homepage is probably the best example of me trying to do that. Today I've been doing podcasts and hangouts and interviews all day. And as people are introducing me, what they're saying consistently is like, we love how vulnerable you are and how humble and authentic you are. And I don't think, honestly, if you talk to Brendan or Tony, they're actually very vulnerable and authentic themselves, but it doesn't come across in the marketing. The marketing is geared towards the achievers already.
Right.
That's a thin slice. And I maybe they're fine with that too. I'm not, you know, criticizing them, but my goal is to hit them earlier. And so, you know, if I'm you, Jeff Lerner, sharing the story, it wouldn't be about meeting the president or advising these big people or whatever. It'd be I was a broke jazz piano player and hated my life and wanted to quit, and like all the struggles. Like, take me through all the struggles you went through and then how you overcame them, and make it seem relatable that, oh, if Jeff could do it, I could do it too.
Yeah. So I'm curious, and I never know where these interviews are going to go. So it's like, this is brilliant. I mean, this feels brilliant to me. Your brilliance. I'm not saying this is a brilliant decision by Jeff Lerner, but like, unexpected really. But I'm so curious, in the personal and professional development industry, there's $1 billion business focusing on achievers and helping them become high achievers. Just ask Tony Robbins, right? Yep. So you can take in the 80-20, you can just focus on the 20% and help them become the 20% of the 20%, like the 4%, right? That's $1 billion business. It's so interesting and cool what you're doing, because I haven't really heard a personal development, forgive the term, but let's just say a personal development guru or authority. I haven't heard somebody say, I'm actually focused on the 80%. I just want to inspire them that like any small amount of change or growth is even possible for them. I haven't heard anybody say that. I'm curious if from a business analysis, you feel like there's a binary selection you have to make to either go, I'm going to work with the 20% and help them become the 4%, or I'm going to work with the 80% and just help them get any degree better. And that economically, you're building a business with, I suspect if you brought in just a pure marketer, they would be like, well, that's a much lower value audience. Do you feel like there's a binary choice you're having to make to say, hey, I'm going to go have like this massive Mother Teresa type impact, and I may cost myself a lot of money in the process, but it's a human choice I want to make? Or do you feel like it's not as cut and dry as that? I
think when I don't know that I've thought about it quite in those terms. I just think this is what I want to do. This is my mission.
Yeah.
And a different Evan Carmichael shows up depending on who I'm talking to. It's basically meeting people with compassion where they're at. The challenge is if you're doing a mass market stuff, like a website that anybody could be hitting, well, who do you target? Mm-hmm. I'm with intent trying to go earlier. But if you and I were to sit down and I could jam out about high achievement and excellence all day. That's my favorite. That's the best, right? I love that stuff. It was rewiring in my brain to say with belief that it's not your fault. Right? Because it just hurts me to say that when I think it through achiever lens, like that's not acceptable. It just would never say it. But that's what has to be said to help people get to the next step. I think it's actually the holy grail of personal development, because people don't, Tony could shift somebody. If somebody believed in Tony, he could shift somebody in the moment super quick. It's the people who write him off. At my first UPW, the couple next to me, the guy fell asleep. He paid $1,500 to be here, and his wife probably brought him along, and she was doing the thing, and he passed out and eventually left. And he paid $1,500 for that ticket. So, there's still most people, I think, to the outside world, to the people who hate their life, like Tony just represents, or anybody in personal development just represents the best version of you. You're angry at Tony without knowing him because you hate your own life, because it's easier to be upset at somebody else and call him a guru or a cult, instead of you actually making the change in your life and trying to learn to get better, right? You don't even have to love everything about Tony. If you take one thing from Tony or Jeff or Evan to make your life better, that's enough, right? The goal isn't to be the next Tony Robbins or the next Jeff Lerner. It's to be the best you. But people don't think that way by default. We weren't like, who taught you that? It wasn't your parents, typically. Like, most parents hate their lives too. And so the kids hate their lives as well. Like, we're not taught this stuff. So that's part of what I want to try to do is ease the burden, make it easier to get in, to take that first step. Because for most people, like, the path to excellence is taking the first step. People aren't willing to, the biggest thing missing, they have all this potential that you could go and see. And this is where I would get frustrated. You have so much potential. You could do all these great things. Why aren't you just doing, here's the tools. You can be a millionaire by next year. Go do it. They just don't have momentum because of the lack of belief. And so that's what and I haven't figured that out by any stretch. But Russell Brunson, who started ClickFunnels, was very kind of helpful in that. It's like, you have to unburden people from their past, because if they come in talking to carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders and all their past. Most people live in their past mistakes and regrets and all the pain and struggle that they've been through, and already feeling like a failure, already feeling judged by the world, that they don't want any more of that. So you have to lift that off their shoulders before they're willing to listen to anything that you have to say. So that's why, if I'm talking to one of the entrepreneurs I've invested in or high achievers, like, no, you got to raise your standards. Like that, you call that your best? Come on, let's go. Like, this is nothing close to, right? That's achiever talking. But to the very opening, first person complainer, hater, it's having super patience. That even them just showing up on time for the call is a big win, which like be unacceptable. Like unacceptable in a you're late by a minute, I'm out of here, right? For entrepreneurs I've invested into, if you're late by a minute, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Standards, it's not even for my time. You don't value your own calendar, right? But for somebody else, for somebody who I'm first meeting first, I might wait 10, 15 minutes, which I would never do, because they hate their life so much. Like you haven't taught them the lesson. Right? They just think you're more of a jackass for standing them up. Even though they were 15 minutes late. Right? So it's empathy and meeting them where they're at. It's super hard. It takes it. I mean, at least for me, it's been super hard. Maybe for others, it's easier. But
what a interesting developmental challenge you've given yourself.
Yeah, how to deal with the complainers. But it's a deep passion of mine. Like I like to say that, give me your hardest case, and I'll take them and I'll help them just by being around me. And even like I couldn't say that. I could say that to you, but I couldn't say that to a normal human, because that's so egotistical. What are you talking about? Just because you're there, you're going to change them? Yeah, absolutely. Right? So people gravitate to my content. The achievers, if they look at my homepage, get confused. Like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. But then when we get on a podcast or a call or something, it's the achiever Evan kind of comes out. It's like, come on, what are we doing? Like we're moving too slow. Let's go.
Yeah, I noticed. I'll share with the audience that when we booked you, I usually book people for an hour time slot. Maybe we use 45. Maybe we go a little over. But your team was very precise. Evan's going to come on. He's available for 25 minutes. Period. The end. And I was like, all right, I love it. Like, I like this guy's style. But that's the kind of intensity that you're talking about that you have to throttle. You have to pull back on for the average person. I was going to ask you, and you maybe just alluded to it. This passion and sort of this a little bit counterintuitive decision for a personal development authority to go low, so to speak. I mean, forgive the term high low, but you know what I mean. How much of that drove your decision to build so much of your marketing and so much of your business model around a YouTube channel? Because that is a very mainstream, wide net way to reach the world, as opposed to like $1,500 seminars, where you're generally aiming higher. Was that a calculated thing?
And I know, talk about the time, we're already kind of bumping up against it.
This is my last question, by the way.
But I wasn't that smart at the beginning. I mean, I'm a visual guy. I wanted visual content. YouTube at the time, 11 years ago when I started, was the only place that had visual content. But I've always connected, because I'm still the broke guy who making $300 a month, in how I think, and a lot of how I kind of live my life. So I still connect more to the broke startups. That's my passion, more than helping somebody who's already built it. I love helping those guys too, but like the startup is really where my heart is. So YouTube was a logical choice, but the messaging is what's been shifted, because people started to feel like they couldn't relate to me anymore. Like, how can you not relate to that? Like, it was a confusing, I came from where you are. I'm still,
right.
So it's like, it's my bad, because the new audience the people who came up with me, they get it. The people who are just finding out about Evan Carmichael today, they don't see that. They might see me and Tony Robbins and Brendan and Puerto Rico and all this stuff, and they have a different picture in their head. They don't know the backstory. It's like, oh, I need to educate people on the backstory. So it starts with the website, and it's still definitely a work in progress, but it's landing. And I think if you want to go down market, you want to have a bigger impact, then even using the word excellence won't hit. Yeah. People just can't, that's not how they're thinking. Excellence. Come on, dude. What are you smoking? Like that's the mindset.
Only rich people have the luxury to even think about that.
Yeah,
right?
look at this guy in his fancy hotel room and like, on vacation. I can't even afford to go anywhere, right? Like that's the default mindset. So it doesn't mean that you have to go down either. Like that's an awesome skill to love helping people get more breakthroughs and achieve excellence. But I think if you're going to go mass, then it has to be, you'd have to come up with something else. And then secretly the ninja mission is still excellence.
Yeah.
Right?
It feels like it has a little inflection of like Oprah. Like she accepts all comers and appeals to all layers, it seems. Anyway, listen, man, I know we're challenged for time. The whole time you've been talking, I've been thinking of this Mother Teresa quote, and I just want to share it.
Okay.
Put a bow on this. She said, not everyone can do great things, but everyone can do small things with great love. And although you're doing a great thing, it feels like you've layered that into it as well. Is like that. Let's speak to the potential in every person, no matter where they are, as a starting point. I think it's very, very cool. I want to honor and acknowledge what you're doing. Thank you for your time. I love how precise you are, and I don't begrudge the tight timeline here at all. I will share with the audience that we put together a special offer for our audience in acknowledgement of Evan's appearance here at millionairesecrets.com/Evan C. They can get our free ebook, and we'll know that they came from this interview. Is there anything that you'd like to share with people about how they can come get into your world, or anything you'd like to offer?
Evan C, the letter C, right? Not S-E-E. Yeah.
Yes,
Evan
and we'll
C,
put that link.
It's Carmichael.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can get my books on Amazon. I'm on whatever social platform you're probably on. I just appreciate the time. And for those of you who don't know, Jeff is on vacation now and canceled almost all of his interviews and made time for this. So I'm humbled, and I'll let you get back to your vacation and your relationship as well.
I appreciate that, man. This has been great. Thank you, Evan. Thanks for being a guest on Millionaire Secrets. And thanks as always to the audience out there. I'll still say be excellent, but I'm open to other adjectives as well. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.